because we come here trusting that this is a country where you can succeed. It's the American dream. Is you work hard and you intentionally receive. You have a give and receive, and you have the freedom. ... Freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom to work, freedom. It's all around freedom.
Welcome to Coach Soul, the podcast where we explore therapeutic ways to the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Steve Hudgins. I'm a licensed professional counselor dedicated to helping you navigate life's challenges. In each uplifting episode, we'll discuss mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Join me and with my co-host, Evelyn, a therapeutic life coach, where sometimes we'll even welcome special guests to our show that share their experience and expertise. So let's embark on this transformative path together and discover a healthier and happier you. All right, welcome back to Coach Soul. It is it's sunny. The flowers are blooming. I love springtime. I know for some people, it's not good for them because the hay fever and what all that happens.
Allergies
Exactly. But I love springtime. And like I shared on the last podcast we had, my yard becomes like Christmas lights with flowers. It blooms everywhere. And what's funny is that great minds think alike. Kenya and I did not plan our color coordination today, but we are happy to be in a blue mood, which is a happy mood, not a depressing mood. So We'll set that record straight. Kenya, it's April and it's almost Easter and it's family time.
Yes, it is.
And,
so we're into the second quarter of the year.
Correct.
And I love this quarter because we get to reflect back. It's at the beginning of the middle of the year, if you will. And there's so much to reflect back, not just because Easter and for us, it has such a connection with our Savior, the meaning, but mostly is a time of renewal. Just like you mentioned, there is renewal of life through the weather, through nature. And the invitation that I see is be intentional. What do I want to blossom in my life? Where am I choosing to put my energy? And in that note, I would love to invite you to reflect back on that time in the end of February when you attended to NRB. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that really expands the direction of where we're going in this podcast and the reach and the flourishing of God's hand where He's putting us. So carry on, Steve.
I'm excited about this administration because we're going back to an era to where we're protecting freedom. As a military veteran, I believe in protecting the freedom and the rights of the people. And I look at this administration that's doing the right thing about being transparent, putting it back into the hands of the people. And one of the things that the National Religious Broadcasters Convention was phenomenal. There was the CEO of Hallmark that was there.
Wow.
I met in person Adam Curry. Many people who don't know Adam Curry he was on MTV. He is the father of podcasting. And so it was great. And I'm in talks with Amplify podcasting, which is part of the Christian Television Network, where Kenya and I are in talks of trying to get our show on the podcasting platform. So we're excited about this, especially with partnering with the Christian Television Network. One of the things about family that I'm excited about because we need to go back into preserving family values. We're starting to see a change in our direction. I'm happy that school systems are starting to buckle down on cell phone usage in classrooms and trying to bring back the education system. But more along the lines that to put family value that's there. And what I've learned through some of the prominent people who are in television, news, those type of things, because DC Wire was there, Washington Times was there. When we're talking to them, this is Christian based, of course. And what has happened over the last 4 years is propaganda.
Correct.
We call it communism that has crept into our system, that we are censored. They're trying to censor. As J.D. Vance, several months ago talked about how France's freedom of speech is going away. France said, yes, we recognize this. 2 of our stations were shut down. So it's those who have money that is trying to shut down truth.
Well, I find it fascinating because, I'm a homeschool parent, and one of the exciting things about homeschooling my children is that I get to go back to school with them, but this time in English, and study American history. And just last year, we went through the Constitution, the Bills of Rights, the Founding Fathers. And as I'm reading those documents, which obviously it's just one Google away, it's like, wow, how can even this be questioned if the country was founded in these values? And the only thing that comes to my mind is, just like in any other area where there is a intention of control, is distortion. Actually, I don't believe that the world and Americans or non-Americans, people like me, know that, because we come here trusting that this is a country where you can succeed. It's the American dream. Is you work hard and you intentionally receive. You have a give and receive, and you have the freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom to work, freedom. It's all around freedom. And the distortion here is feeling guilty, right? The TV puts on frequency, the media puts on the frequency of, you need to feel guilty for being an American. You need to feel guilty for not standing for all this, which is not love. Love is inclusion in a way that feels like truth. Feels like truth. If it feels like manipulation, is not love. Did you hear what I said? Mm-hmm. The inclusivity is the frequency of honesty and authenticity and truth, which is, of course, we're brothers and sisters, we're created by one God. We're all his children. And there is the law of give and receive. There is act and behavior consequences. And would you just not follow through to that just because of, I'm just going to say it, an agenda? It's unconstitutional. And it's also very divisive.
Correct.
Very divisive. So I am not an American. I'm considered in the minority. So I feel so good that I can just speak my heart. For me and for my children, because I am raising Americans, and I'm also raising Brazilians. They have dual citizenship. So actually, I'm going one step further. I'm raising great humans. We mothers, my stand in this season of my life right now is that we stand as one to know that everything we say and be and do matters. Our children are watching, and we take a stand for values that we want them to replicate. Keyword, replicate. They will never do what we're saying because we're saying. They will do what they saw. That
goes back into Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. And that's important for families that, such as yours, that come together and serve the Lord and being able to present truth and being able to be there. What I find interesting is the fact that when we look at family, we don't want to go back into a family that is dominant in one patriarchal or matriarchal.
No.
It's a co-creation that we come
Correct.
together as a partnership to be able to protect the family that's there. And one of the things that I found interesting, just talking to various peoples at NRB, is the fact that we need to come together. And my message is that when you think about family, we have lost the value of mentorship. And one of the things I talked to some of the several leaders that are there, that churches need to go back into having the older generation to teach the younger generation what it's like to honor and respect your husband or wife, because it goes both ways. Men need to honor their wives in how they respect and how they are to be careful. First Peter talks about how we are to, as men, it says, husbands, treat your wife as a weaker vessel, or your prayers are going to be hindered. I don't like that terminology. I don't think it's properly translated from the Greek.
It's not.
So Steve's version is, husbands, be careful how you react to your wife's emotions, so your prayers aren't going to be hindered. In other words, if she is elevated, he doesn't need to be condescending. He doesn't need to be reactionary to her emotions and verbiage. He needs to be just steadfast. Now, I'm not saying, men, you take the abuse from her. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying how we manage those emotions is very important. I've got several clients who I'm trying to work with to minimize the arguments in front of the kids. In fact, one of them, they were getting in and she felt embarrassed because of how things were handled in the restaurant. And so as she got in the car with the kids was, you need to stop doing this, how you're speaking to me, because you're teaching them how to treat a woman.
Oof.
And he comes back in front of the kids. Well, I'm teaching them how not to take the scruff of a woman.
Oof.
So there's a lot of trauma that goes on between these two. How does that help the kids? And we're talking about families here, Kenya, and Easter is coming around to where we come together to celebrate life, because Christ is life. In fact, it's the only Christian faith, or any kind of religious faith, if you will, that talks about the leader dying and coming back. No other leader has ever done that. So it's, how can we bring life, or what ways can we bring life back into the family where there is honor between the father and mother, and not presenting a conflict in front of these kids?
For me, it all goes back to the honesty that we're in this journey together. Truly. Yes, I am a guide. My husband is a guide. We have been given these children. So yeah, we get to hold the torch to light up the way for them. But not just but we're still in our own journey. And the way this works in my household, and I can only speak based on my own experience in hundreds of women that I had privilege to coach, mostly women, but I also coached a lot of men, that when you have low self-worth, which all of us at some point in our lives, we have been bitten by the I was about to say virus. I don't have a better word for that, but this frequency comes and takes your body, and it feels like it's true, but it's not true. But when you live in unworthiness, it's a power struggle with every single relationship, period, including God. But when you accept it and embody, and there is a difference, right? I grew up in church. I know hundreds of Bible verses by heart. I have embodied a few of them in my adulthood, and I'm still embodied. It's like something clicks and you understand. What does it mean, a new identity? What does it mean I'm wonderfully and beautifully made? What does it mean I'm worth it? Because I am created in an image of God. I'm not half anything. I am a whole, an entirety. I'm part of God's DNA. Like it's stamped in my blood. So this is, when this shifts, we come back to, I come back to, hey guys, I messed up. I'm in the journey too. And that way I have given my children permission to see themselves as amazing, and at the same time see themselves as somebody imperfect. I am perfectly imperfect, and it's just what is. And every day my best, this is very important, looks a little bit different.
It's about facing our fears, because fear is what creeps into the family and it destroys it. And what I remember about scriptures, it says love does what? It casts out fear. And when I think about that, a family bound by truth stands unshaken, because truth gives it a foundation. Because when honesty prevails, trust grows. When trust grows, love endures. And so can we go back to that 1 Corinthians 13 that talks about what?
Love.
Patience,
yes.
Love, kind, right? And so it's about learning how to accept who I am. I think a lot of people that I deal with and talk to have guilt and shame.
We all carry, Steve. We all carry.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it gets in the way of our salvation, that I feel like I cannot be redeemed. And so it carries over into that era, that if we can work through that I am loved by God, mm-hmm. that he doesn't have to condemn me when I'm in Christ. And if we can learn how to accept that I'm forgiven, I'm redeemed by a loving God who does not want me to perish, then my actions, my words, my fruits are delivered into my family. Mm. And what do trees, what do flowers do in spring? They pollinate. So the pollination carries. Well, the man is that foundation that should have that fruit-bearing tree that pollinates to his wife, that pollinates to his children, so they can see the leadership there of love. And just like a love of a father, he should be patient and kind. And so that the pollination into the mother can also what? Nourish the offsprings there. That's why I look at a family bound by truth stands unshaken.
I love that. And there's a part of me that says, yes. And there's a part of me that says, this is a great theory, Steve, because in practice, we as humans in this human body, we have all the feelings, and we have the great days and the bad days and everything in the middle. And what I hear you saying is that the truth of which you talk about is not just, biblical truth, but the truth of being honest with your emotions. The truth about being honest about the thoughts in your head. The truth about knowing the difference between the thoughts in my head are real, but they are not true. They don't speak life to me. I had this conversation with my son just a couple of days ago when he was going through things, and he was so kind to feel, the word is safe. He wasn't kind. I mean, he is kind, but he felt so safe to communicate out loud the tone of the voices in his head. And we had this beautiful exchange. I said, hey, I have those too. Mm-hmm. And I get that you hear all of that. I hear those too. They actually don't go away when you grow older, but they get familiar, and you know that they are voices of lie. They are voices of the past. They're voices of programming. They are voices, honestly, they're dark voices. They are not God's voice. They are not your loving mother's voice. I told him, my prayer, my intention is that when you hear my voice, is a voice that gives you life, that reminds you of your identity, that reminds you of how loved you are, that reminds me that there's nothing you can do that will make me want to push you away. And imagine God. That is an earthly mama. So, and he's only 15, right? So
Right.
our children seeing us walking in honesty is the biggest truth.
Well, truth in mind, it's the light that exposes those shadows of self-deception, right? And so if we can challenge the lies that we tell ourselves, that we're not good enough, it's having that courage to see and the humility to admit and to have the strength to change, that if we can just be able to partner with our partner,
Yeah.
and not have fear creep into our relationships with one another,
Yeah.
we can reduce the friction of fights.
100%. Here's the thing. This needs to be another podcast, in my opinion. This idea that we can actually control the voices in our head. We can, because there are techniques to do that. And otherwise we go through life really feeling like a victim, truly, because it's like, I have no control. They just come and I'm just going to wiggle a carrot. Yes and no. The control that you have is you can notice the thought, but you don't embed in the thought. You don't grab the thought and say, oh yeah, it's mine, it's true. Let me stay in it. I'll give you statistics, okay? Any thought that you hold for 17 seconds, it will call his friends. So if you're holding a thought of lack, if you're holding a thought of separation, if you're holding a thought of anger, resentment, and I'm not talking about towards others, it's all towards self first. Self-judgment, self-hatred. So I can believe I said that. I should have said blah, 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 right? So it brings their friends. So notice the thought that you had, catch it.
Right.
And flip it. Literally flip it. And yes, it comes with practice like push-ups. And it also comes with being in the right environment. This is why, because you are part of a family, that family gets to be your number one best environment, especially if I'm talking to a parent here. You have given authority to create in the walls of your home, in the pictures, in the smells, in the communication, in a harmonic setting, so everyone can blossom. And I did say everyone. I knew that in theory, okay, Steve? But I grew up in a very chaotic home, full of drama, full of...
Oh, for sure.
So I just didn't know but drama and chaos.
But that's where this renewal comes into play.
Exactly.
Right?
So do I perpetuate or do I shift? Right? So for me, the invitation was, okay, I can just run the pattern. And trust me, listeners, this is not something that came to me like, oh yeah, today I'm going to run the pattern. It was so automatic that I didn't notice that I was in the pattern until I saw through the mirror of my children that I was perpetuating the pattern. Like I actually saw me being my mom or being the person that...
So we got about 6 minutes left.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I want to kind of finish out with family business here, because Easter is coming. One of the things that I'm thinking about is we talk about these shifted patterns. We stay in something, and we get so accustomed to being the norm that oftentimes people are afraid to go against the grain. And we need to find that in-depth courage to say, you know what, I'm going to take a stand today, no matter what other people think or say. I had a client today that said, I don't know why I think about the way I do, because she's referring to, I made a decision and I'm afraid to make a newer decision based on what people think. Who cares? If it's not hurting yourself and you're not hurting other people, then challenge yourself for growth.
That's right.
To make a shift. We worry so much about what other people think that I've gotten to a point, it doesn't matter what people think. They're going to say and do what they do, but God is who I need to worry about how he thinks about me.
So
am I living an authentic life?
Perfect. Let's just lay down the foundation here. People pleasing never worked. People pleasing doesn't work. The only thing that people pleasing does is a temporary feeling of acceptance, which is not honest. It's not true, because in the moment that you don't do or you don't behave the way that XYZ approve, then you get the other feedback, the feedback they've been avoiding. Ask me how I know it. And please raise your hand if you've ever been into this, and don't raise your hand if you're driving. But we have always been there. There is a people pleaser in every single one of us. But the people pleaser doesn't get anything done. It lives in reaction. So let's go back to family, right? As a child of God, you are here to create. You're not here to react. You're here to create. So noticing the pattern for me, it was an awakening of invitation of, am I going to embody the new identity? Because I believe that if you call yourself that you have a new identity and you're not stepping on it, you're wishing-washing with your faith and with everything that comes to it. And yes, I am being bold and I'm calling us out because it's time to elevate. It's time to be in alignment and integrity with what you say that is true to you. Go live that truth. Go sing that truth. Go dance that truth. Go embody that truth. Now, the other thing we need to demystify is that you're alone. We're not alone. It is actually impossible to be alone. We're surrounded by angels. We're surrounded by guidance. We are surrounded to each other's magnetic field. Steve and I are entangled with a baby, with a family member called Coached Soul. We're also are entangled with a friendship outside of Coached Soul. Sometimes Steve doesn't know that, but I feel Steve and I send him love. I feel him, and then he calls. I know you know what I'm talking about. When you think about a friend and it's like, oh, I was just thinking about you. What's that? Is it magic? No. We are souls that are created by the image of God, and we're entangled in this miracle called earthly experience. So my invitation for you, as we move forward, as we are here in April, and we're taking a stand to live with our hearts open and live aligned and grounded and live guided by the Holy Spirit, is double, triple dog dare you to live in the identity of a new person. The one that questions the status quo. The one that says, you know what? I believe in happiness now. I believe in love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and goodness, faithfulness, patience, self-control. And it starts with me. It's not on the outside. It starts with me. And the how, it's not up to you. It's not up to us, the how. The decision is.
So, as we come to a close, we want you to be able to know Easter's next week. We want you to feel empowered and renewed with your family. And forgiveness is always about having that inward feeling of forgiveness and peace so that it can be offered to the other family member. Love should cover a multitude of sins, so to speak. So go in peace.
Yes.
Enjoy your family. Until next time, take care and God bless.
We love you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on Coach Soul. As we wrap up, we want to remind our listeners of a few key points. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content shared here is based on professional opinion but may not apply to everyone's situation. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your mental health care. If you're in a crisis, please seek immediate professional help or contact a crisis hotline. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship. For personal advice, please consult with your licensed mental health professional in your area. Remember, your mental health journey is unique. While we hope this information is helpful, it is crucial to work directly with the qualified personnel for your specific needs. Thank you again for tuning in to Coach Soul, and we'll see you next time.